Hi everyone, I'm Kate Berkner here with Dr. Tom Phelan, author and creator of 123 Magic and the Manager Mom Epidemic. Today we're going to be talking about parenting styles, in particular 3 types of parenting styles that can be common but may not have the effect that you want at your house. Hi Dr. Phelan, how are you today?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So can you tell us what these 3 parenting styles are?
Yeah, one parenting style is what we call the big dog parenting style. This is where the parents are kind of intimidators. Their parenting is based on anger, their own anger, and it's also based on sort of scaring the kids into compliance. Second style, which is the opposite of that, is what I call the underdog parenting style. And the underdog parent, their parenting is based on anxiety and guilt, their own anxiety and guilt. They don't want to offend the kids. They don't want to do the wrong thing. They don't want to be a bad parent. They want to do everything right. And so in those households, the kids tend to run things more than the parents do. And the third style, now we're talking, this is sort of a COVID special that we're talking about here. The third style, which I see popping up now more, which is not a good style, is what I call the chaotic parenting style. And it's sort of a function of the disorientation that a lot of people feel during the COVID times and the loss of structure. So it's inconsistent. So you might have a chaotic parent going to be one day sort of the intimidator, another day sort of the anxiety, am I doing everything right and all that. But it's not going to be the same thing. It's going to change a lot.
Yep, that sounds exactly like my house. Things are very chaotic here right now. But all right, so let's start talking a little bit about the underdog parent. What does it mean to be an underdog parent? Why would a parent behave as an underdog in their own house?
Yeah, the underdog parents, they're so worried about doing the right thing. You know, a lot of people have said, moms in general are guilt freaks. And that's true in a lot of ways. Dads have less tendency to get stuck into guilt. They can some of the time, but moms are more likely to do that. But the underdog parent is always worrying about, am I doing the right thing? And they're always worrying about, am I offending someone? It could be my husband or partner, but it could also be the kids. I don't want to do anything that makes the kids uncomfortable. Underdog parents during COVID times are worried about the effect of COVID on the children. And so they're thinking, well, my poor kids are going through so much stress. I don't want to add to the stress by making them go to bed or asking them to do the chores or asking them to do this, that, or the other thing. But then the other thing that happens is COVID causes so much stress itself that even the underdog parent is going to blow up every once in a while or get really upset because we're all at kind of where our normal stress level would be this. With COVID, it's up here. We start the day up here. So the kids fight or something like that, it feels twice as bad to us as it did before. So it's kind of anxiety, anger, back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people are experiencing sort of that seesaw right now. Can you give us an example of what an interaction between an underdog parent and a child might sound like at home?
Yeah, underdog parent, what they'll say there's, they want them to, well, imagine they had homework now, and right now we're probably not doing homework, but an underdog parent would say, don't we think it's about time we started our homework? Okay. And it's a kind of a shy, almost self-effacing plea. It's pleading, it's almost whimpering. And we often say underdog parents whimper, big dog parents growl, but underdog parents whimper in their requests. And the request reveals a lot of anxiety and insecurity in the parent. Like, I really have no idea what I'm doing, but I hope you'll cooperate anyway.
Okay. So what long-term effect is that going to have on the kids? Like what kinds of traits or behaviors might we expect from grown-up children who had an underdog parent at home?
Yeah, we would expect, and over the long run, if this sort of thing continued, we would expect that those kids would be overly aggressive and have a deep sense of entitlement. The world owes me a living. I don't have to, contribute to the group in any way. I expect servitude from other people and that kind of thing. So we'd get a kind of a bad sense of being better than other people and expecting other people to serve me.
Got it. Because you kind of saw from a very young age
Right.
that authority figures sort of are subservient to you almost.
That's right. My mom in particular, yeah, she may be president of the house, but she's my chief servant, and she takes care of my needs. If something's going wrong, she's going to take care of it. I can sit around and kind of wait until she fixes it, and then I'll go on from there. But I'm not necessarily a self-starter in that regard at home.
Got it. Yeah. So if the president of the house is serving me, I must be king of the world. Something like that.
We don't want them concluding that, do we? But
Right. No, definitely not. Okay, so then let's talk about the flip side of that. What about the big dog parent?
yeah, big dog parent being intimidated, the kids over the long run in that scenario are going to wind up being more fearful, unsure of themselves, probably a lower self-esteem kind of thing. They're going to be more on guard. They're going to be more worried, like the underdog parent. They're going to be more worried about doing the right thing, about not offending anybody else, because the big dog parent is somebody you don't want to offend them. You don't want to cross them. So you're going to see more insecurity and social anxiety in the kids that have been raised by the big dog parent. And you put them into a marriage, for example, they're going to be, a couple steps disadvantaged to start with because they're going to feel often that they're doing the wrong thing. They're going to worry about that. And it's going to be sort of a chronic psychological pattern for them.
Got it. So, we talked about big dog parents growling, which I would sort of interpret as, a snapping, a yelling, that type of thing. Is that what big dog parenting always looks like? Does it kind of show up in other ways too?
Well, unfortunately, it can also show up as physical discipline or physical abuse. So if the big dog parent member is their basic emotional dynamic here is anger or irritation. So other people are here. It's like kids should be seen and not heard. Other people are here, but they shouldn't bother me. And if they do bother me, it's a major crime, and I have a right to get real mad about it, and sometimes physical about it as well. So that's the big dog style, is to intimidate and to feel like other people are here, not necessarily for me, but at least they shouldn't be bothering me. This is my house. I don't want to be bothered in my own home.
Got it. And I feel like I'm laughing because this morning I experienced what was to me just like a perfect exemplar of what motherhood of small children looks like, because it's like first thing in the morning and I've just gotten up and I'm like stumbling around because it's very early and my kids are not supposed to be out of their rooms yet. They're 2.5 and 5.5. And like all of a sudden I'm standing here trying to get my bearings and these two small children like hit me from one side and the other. and it was just like an exemplar, like I said, of kind of what motherhood looks like. You're just like super groggy and these two small beings have invaded your space. They're not supposed to be up yet. They're in your room, they're up in your face. And I would imagine that a big dog response to that might be something like snapping and yelling and telling them to go back to their room. And what do you think you're doing being up this early?
It could certainly be, along with maybe a little swat on the butt, something along those lines, and that's what we don't want to do. Big dog parent, toleration of chaotic events like that is not the best.
So speaking of chaotic, let's talk about chaotic parenting, which, as you said, we're probably experiencing a rise in right now with the rise in anxiety and stress among parents. So what is chaotic parenting going to look like at home?
Well, it's going to be one thing one day and one thing the next. So bedtime tonight won't be the same as bedtime tomorrow night. Maybe we don't have a rule anymore for bedtime. We don't have routines for things. Kids really benefit from routines. So you need a routine for eating. You need a routine for bedtime. Homework when when school is in session, you need a routine for that. Getting up and out in the morning and so on. So you have a lack of all this stuff, and that really kind of undermines everybody. I think it means that the whole house is kind of up in the air. You never know where things stand, and it especially with this rise in the COVID stress level to begin with. it makes it more likely that people are going to be at each other's throats because they're all going to have their own interpretations of what the structure or the plan for the day should be. And that's, not a good thing. It's made for interpersonal conflict.
Yeah. So, um, what other kinds of impacts are we going to see on kids from that type of parenting? It sounds almost like kind of a mix of some of the less desirable things from underdog and big dog parenting.
Yeah, I think you're going to see more chaotic behavior from the kids, and you may see them cooperating some of the time, but other times you're going to see them and they're going to be more resistant. The nice thing about having routines or parents who they're predictable in a good sense, dad disciplines this and he lets this go. Okay, well, that's okay. Maybe that makes sense. But now I don't know what's going to be disciplined, and I don't know what's going to be let go from day to day, and so I'm a little more uncertain about it. So I'm going to kind of wing it myself, but that may result in a lot of difficult situations between me and my parents. So what you're going to see is this interaction that is just it's not the same. It's too variable, and it's going to make everybody get this kind of up in the air feeling all the time. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're looking at with the COVID in too many homes. Everything is just, and plus the fact people are stuck with each other all that time. And well, I don't think this sounds so funny to say anymore. People are getting sick of each other, and they're together too much, and they don't get out as much as they should. That's one of the problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Things we chuckled in amusement at a few months ago are still very, very real now, and definitely less funny. So we don't want to be chaotic. It's very destabilizing. We don't want to be big dog. It's very demoralizing for our children. And we don't want to be underdog because, that takes away our authority and also can create kids who feel very entitled as they grow up. So what kind of parent do we want to be?
Well, what we want to be is back to the old, the old rule, and a lot of research to support it. We want to be warm and demanding parents. We want to be friendly and firm. And what that means is we want to have structure, provide our kids structure for different kind of things. For obnoxious behavior, for example, we want to have a typical response, good response for whining. What do we do for whining? What's your routine for sibling rivalry? If school were in session, what's your routine for homework? What's our routine for bedtime? And that kind of thing. So we need to establish routines. It's time to sit down and say, let's get everybody together. Let's have a family meeting. Now, if you have a 2.5-year-old, they're not so good at family meetings. 5 and up, yeah, you can, have a little better luck with it. But let's start getting some of this stuff, let's start getting our act together. And let's also structure some ways of breaking up this family. So we're not all home at the same time, or we're not all going out as a family whenever we, feel like we want to go somewhere. And it doesn't have to be rigid. You don't have to do every day, the same. But it really helps to come. So it's warm and demanding. So sometimes I expect something of you kids. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I don't want you to do this. And other times we're going to have some fun together. And it's what's going to be the balance of that. And with the whole thing, we want to have some compassion for one another, that we're all under an unusual stress. It's a weird world now. And we want to talk about that some of the time and give each other a break.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that's so great about the 1-2-3 Magic program, whether you read the book, whether you watch the video together with your spouse, is it gives you the tools and the framework to kind of create those routines for yourself in a way that works for your house and works for your family. And one of the things that I love about it is I don't have to think about, what do I do if the kid whines? What do I do if they are doing X, Y, or Z? I just already know. I've decided. I've made a plan based on kind of the rules and the guidelines provided by the 1-2-3 Magic program. So I think that's one of the things.
You're absolutely right. And if you think about it, so let's take our big dog parent, the intimidator. What does the intimidator need? They need parenting job number 3. Which is what? Bonding, strengthening your relationship. They need the shared fun. They need the active listening. Intimidators need to listen to their kids. They need to have fun with their kids instead of bossing them around all the time. What does the underdog parent need? The underdog parent needs counting. You need something for obnoxious behavior. You got a whiner, underdog parent, whining kid, bad combination. We're going to teach that underdog parent how to count. And very gentle, but we put limits on some of that kind of thing, how to deal with sibling rivalry and so on. So the 1, 2, 3, like you said, is a good way to define a warm and demanding style for you. And you can individualize it to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I feel like particularly the start behaviors would be really helpful for both underdog and big dog parents, because for the underdog parent, you're not trying to get the kid to do something every single time. You've already trained them on what is going to happen. So there's no need for kind of the begging or the pleading to get them to do it. You've taken the time to teach them what to do. And for the big dog parent, there's going to be a lot less frustration triggered, because when you say to the kid, okay, it's time for bed, you don't have to fight about it. They're not going to argue with you. They're just going to go do it. And then that creates a positive interaction for that big dog parent and the child, which leads nicely into parenting job number 3.
Exactly, and you're exactly right. That routine and everybody knowing what they're going to do is a great way to avoid a lot of unnecessary conflict, especially when everybody's kind of tense in the first place.
Great. So what is the biggest thing that will get in the way of the underdog parent, the big dog parent, or the chaotic parent when it comes to being a more deliberate parent?
Well, with the underdog parent, the biggest thing is going to be the anxiety about doing the right thing, and am I going to do it? And that anxiety will show. Unfortunately, the anxiety will show in their tone of voice. And so when the underdog parent speaks, the anxiety is there, and the anxiety says, I really have no idea what I'm doing. I hope you'll cooperate with me anyway. The big dog parent, the biggest problem that's going to be there for them is the anger or the irritation. And so what they're really saying implied in that is you do what I say no matter what, or else. And so that's the intimidating part of the whole thing. So both of those parents have opposite emotions, anger and anxiety that they have to deal with in order to define a better warm and demanding parenting strategy for themselves.
Yeah. And I think that, if you go through the 1, 2, 3 magic book, one of the pieces of advice that you provide in there is start with the stop behaviors, get that in place for 7 or 10 days. And the whole idea of the counting is taking the emotion out of it, is taking the talking out of it. So it's such a great first step for parents for whom it's the emotion that's being the struggle and keeping them from being the type of deliberate parent that they want to be.
Yeah. Well, you also bring up an interesting point. Yes, it would make sense to start with counting and asserting yourself and say enough of this and so on, no extra talking and all that. If you are a big dog parent, it might make more sense to start with parenting job number 3, which is bonding, not counting. So you're going to do the active listening, you're going to do the shared fun, and so on. And then you might add the counting to contradict your irritated, out of control self. But, a good point is big doggers might start somewhere else from the underdoggers.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Phelan. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk us through these different parenting styles today.
Thanks, Kay.
If you know someone who needs to hear this, please share this video or tag them in the comments below. As I mentioned, if you're not already on our newsletter list, head on over to 123magic.com. Tomorrow's newsletter is going to include a free download of the Parenting Styles Quick Reference Guide, which is also available for sale on the website, as well as additional parenting tips and resources. Thanks so much.